Now the clouds have all rolled on.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Rated ICFS. I'm Brendan Teenan, joined by Zeb Schmidt. We're both from the It Came From Schenectady team. And we are joined today by Brett Berg from the American Genre Film Archive. Brett, thanks for joining us again.
Great to be back. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we are going to be talking about the latest movie in what we call our Cinema Other slate, but that's the collection of films that we receive from American Genre Film Archive as part of our annual ICFS programming. And it's probably, I would say, perhaps the most infamous movie that we have on our slate this year, and that's the movie Roar. So could you give us a little bit of like a synopsis and some context to help the audience better understand what this movie is about and what actually happened on set during the making of this movie?
Sure. I love this movie not only because it's insane, but because it has like a ton of context, which is as fun as the movie. So in the late 60s, actress Tippi Hedren, who's in Hitchcock's The Birds and Marnie, and her husband Noel Marshall, who his greatest IMDb credit is executive producer of The Exorcist. And they were an unusual couple because they decided to start collecting basically African wildlife in their Los Angeles home. Lions, tigers, leopards, cheetahs. And at a certain point, they could no longer just like have a bunch of lions in their home in LA. So they created a nature preserve somewhere, I forget where, in California, where all the lions and tigers and cheetahs could live. And then they got the bright idea, wait a second, these critters are so photogenic, we're going to make them the stars of a feature film starring us, our own family, and the animals. So that resulting feature film, which came out over a decade later after they started shooting it, or started conceiving it, is Roar. So basically, the somewhat plotless movie is just Tippi Hedren, Noel Marshall, and their teen children, including a 14-year-old Melanie Griffith, by the way, who's Tippi Hedren's daughter. They're basically reacting in real time as lions and tigers and leopards and cheetahs are running rampant all over their set, and basically they're coming within an inch of their own lives constantly. And the terror that's on the cast's faces is, I'm assuming it's real.
It's gotta be
because real. Melanie Griffith may not have been, the worldly Melanie Griffith that she became at age 14 when she's staring right into the face of a lion. So I'm interested to know what you got, like the charge that you get off of seeing this movie, because everyone gets a different kind of bizarre charge off of this.
I watched it. I think we were considering showing it a few years ago here. Nobody bit, so I said, well, what is this about? So I watched it, and I was just like, just fascinated with it. I wasn't sure what to make. It was kind of like it had the, I don't even want to say this, the Cannibal Holocaust effect, where I wasn't sure how to react to it. It was just like, I was kind of horrified, but it was fascinating in a different way, but it was also kind of funny. And it had so many different because it had that 70s charm about it, but it was horrifying because like everybody just gets mauled by tigers throughout the whole film. And everyone's running, and it's just like chaotic. It's also fascinating because you wonder how do they film this movie, and then you read about all of the behind the scenes. This guy got gashed. I think even John DeBond was one of the cinematographers. I hope I'm saying his name right. And I think he got lashed really hard. And then he came back. It's just it's one of the most fascinating things I think I've seen, because you can really feel. The feeling of danger is like palpable. It's almost like watching like a I don't want to say like a Traces of Death but it's like it's real, and but they're trying to act at the same time.
Yeah.
I watched it with my family. That's the first time to get like an audience reaction of it, and because it was kind of like one of those things where it's like, yeah, they're just like there's a lot of lions and tigers in it. Oh, great, let's check it out. And it was just like they had so much fun with it, but at the same time, it was really horrific. So that's my take on it. It's one of those ones I can kind of rewatch a bunch of times without and always kind of find some new angle. And interestingly, I did not know that was shot in California. I was convinced it was definitely shot in Africa.
Yeah, I don't think I knew that tidbit either. Because the whatever section of California they found, it looked like it was sort of like the Savannah Plains.
Right. And the actors are like,
yeah,
they seem
like
genuine.
the one gentleman who's sort of like the trainer or grounds gameskeeper, whatever you want to call him.
Yeah.
All of it just seemed like it was very much.
Who didn't seem like he was thrilled
Sub-Saharan.
to be in the film.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking it up here, and the Roar Foundation is housed on the Shambhala Preserve in Soledad Canyon, which is in Palmdale, which is like an hour outside of LA.
That's crazy.
Wow.
That's crazy.
And it says opened in 1972.
Okay.
Founded by actress Tippi Hedren. Yeah. So this was definitely filmed in like California.
That's insane.
And
Gotcha.
I go back and forth on whether or not Roar is a documentary, and ultimately I don't think it is, because I think it falls under the category of a Mondo film, much like Mondo Cane, Goodbye Uncle Tom, and the time-honored Italian tradition of creating, quote, documentaries that are largely staged.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because the look in the eyes of the human cast, the look of fear in their eyes is real. There is no mistaking it. And Noel Marshall is the only one who doesn't seem terrified out of his mind. He has a death wish or some kind of like LSD influenced calm, which just allows him to peer into the center of the lion and like look through the lion.
He looked pretty scared.
Sure what's going on, but
he looked pretty scared in some of those scenes. Like I could tell it was almost like he was trying to keep like a calmness, but you could tell by his voice, because his voice is like, no, this line. I mean, maybe that's just the way he talks.
It's just playing, I'm telling you. But you could get killed. The cat's got a little extra. Yeah, that's all. Oh. Wow. Are you okay? Wow. Look crazy. Wow.
It looked like he was pretty frightened too, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
he struck me as like, without ever knowing who Noel Marshall is, he seems like the type who's just like the eternal optimist, and like so he was going to try to be that kind of calming force on set. But even so, when you're dealing with a cadre of real wild lions and tigers, and they're just like constantly pouncing and surrounding you, there's going to be a little bit of panic in you from time to time.
It's really chaotic at times too, almost like an art film, because it's like there's so many lions running around, there's so many things being knocked down. It almost has like a film that I can think of. It's like a what's the Peter Jackson movie, the Dead Alive?
Yeah.
There's like so many things going on at once. Like it's so chaotic that you're just like, what the hell am I watching? And then you just have to sit back and just like, because there's just lions everywhere, knocking over things, people falling into cabinets. I mean, there's just and then there's it's something to behold. This movie.
I would assume that they had multiple cameras rolling at any time, and the ensuing chaotic edit in the finished film actually feels more like a concert film than anything else. You could sort of compare this to like Woodstock or Stop Making Sense, in that they are just essentially filming barely choreographed live events, and they're trying to capture it with 2 or 3 scope cameras, like this incredible anamorphic cinematography. Again, like you said, by Jan de Bont, who shot films for Paul Verhoeven in the 70s and then went on to direct Speed and Twister and stuff like that.
That is one of the
crew members of this film over the years, and they all have shell-shocked stories to tell about being on the production, but no one that I've met has said that they regret participating.
Wow.
Which is fascinating.
Not even Melanie Griffith, because I think she had some stitches.
She had to have like facial reconstructive surgery or something, right? According to the trailer that we've been running, I think that was like one of the injuries listed as like they had to do like reconstructive surgery on her face from whatever injuries she sustained.
Yeah, I this might sound weird, but it's kind of like going back to an abusive partner almost. Why else would Jan de Bont and all these crew members return? I guess the experience of making this thing was so unique that everyone knew that they had to participate, even though it was at their own peril. It's like skydiving or anything else, where there's a little bit of a lurking death wish in the corner, and it's about riding the line between safety and not safety.
Right.
I don't know. I'm kind of spitballing here, but I don't know what I would do if I was on the set of this movie. Would I return? Hell no.
Right,
But
yeah.
it's fascinating to watch the concert film-like result of what they did.
I was watching it, I think the first time I was still in college when I saw it, and I knew a little bit about Tippi Hedren's life and career and her interactions with Hitchcock, and how like she was traumatized basically in the making of The Birds. And so then as I'm watching the movie, as I'm watching Roar, I'm like, how did she get herself back into this again? Like she's
Tragic
like
life,
just,
yeah.
you know, all of a sudden like just putting herself through horror after horror in the service of making art, I guess.
How it came about was Dad and Tippi went to Africa. Tippi used to do movies there every so often.
It was always so beautiful to go to the game preserves when I had time off and see the animals running free and working with each other and against each other, just doing, you know, what they do to make a living.
This house, it was a real house that was taken over by lions in Kenya.
It was a Portuguese flat-style home, and they were up on top of the roof, and I mean, it was an awesome sight to see it.
They came back and they said, well, wouldn't that be neat to do a movie about this?
However, as soon as the trainers for these Hollywood acting animals heard that we were going to have maybe 25 or 30 big cats working together, they laughed at us and said, this can't be done. This is, you know, because of instinctual dictates to fight. And they suggested that we acquire our own animals to do this, introduce them carefully, and the first one was a rescue.
And then they got more and more lions, and they got cubs, and then they got a couple tigers, and they were raising them when they were living in Sherman Oaks.
It probably gave them insights to all kinds of things that don't usually happen to young people.
Noel comes running out of the set completely naked with blood pouring down his body from these 2 puncture wounds from a bite, screaming at this lion which is running in front of him. Just as this group of like 10 Japanese businessmen are walking up, and here's their producer, director, star, completely naked, blood all over his body.
He's crazy. He was crazy.
This is the original set house for the movie, and this place has been filled with lions and tigers, and they would set up big platforms and have camera people all on the platforms, and then Noel would turn loose the lions, and then the lions would hit the platforms, and then all the camera people would fall, and the platform would fall, and then half of them would get up, and one time they all quit. It was like someone called wrap or cut or something, or lunch. Everybody wondered where the whole crew was going, and the whole crew went, this is nuts. This is nuts. We can't do this. This is nuts. And like 16 professional camera people went that way.
It's such an amazing movie, and it's the chaos and fear and just heart-stopping moments happening throughout the film is just kind of like, to me, juxtaposed by really beautiful photography. Throughout it. It's like it is absolutely chaotic with like 3 or 4 cameras probably running all at the same time to just capture everything as best as they could as it was happening, but it's all like really well composed and framed right and
lit well,
and
because
lit
they're
well.
always outdoors. Most of the film takes place outdoors.
Yeah.
And if it's not, it seems like it had a lot of daylight. But yeah.
I'm looking at this IndieWire article right now, which is from way after Draft House Films re-released this. Tippi Hedren disputes the number of cast members that were harmed during the making of the film, although the article says it's difficult to argue with hard and fast evidence that the injuries that were sustained were grievous. From our own deep dive on the film, Jan de Bont was scalped, requiring 220 stitches.
Ooh.
Griffith was mauled by a lion, which required facial reconstructive surgery, and AD narrowly escaped death when a lion missed his jugular by an inch.
Oh my God.
Hedren, who was also attacked by birds on the set of The Birds, endured a fractured leg and multiple scalp wounds, and Marshall himself was wounded so many times that he was hospitalized with gangrene.
Yeah.
Now, if you had multiple family members that were sent to the hospital due to a film production, wouldn't you stop the film production?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, but there's a certain kind of charm and loving quality about the movie too, because this guy just loves these lions so much.
Yeah.
And you really feel that in all the scenes. there's a certain charm to it that kind of plays against this horrific backstory and horrific. It's because even when the kids are running from all the lions, it's that you feel like it's almost like a game, like they're playing.
And
but
so
it's like
one
a
of them gets caught.
It's a dangerous game. Yeah, it's a case study in sociology, and it's there's so many things here. Yeah.
Oh, like luring
The IndieWire article only has one comment on it, and it's one sentence that says, "She is such a sicko." It's true. This stuff sounds so dangerous. And there's another quote here that says, she told Variety, "I don't know how we survived it. Our 9-month shoot turned into 5 years. We were one-on-one with those big cats. They're dangerous animals, and they're big. As I made the movie, I got into the issue of stopping the government from allowing people to breed lions and tigers as pets. They shouldn't be pets. They're apex predators, top of the food chain, one of the 4 most dangerous animals in the world." End quote. Then why did they make a movie with them?
Why do they keep shooting?
I read something that a lot of those lions died in a flood. Did you guys?
I didn't know that. No.
Yeah, I guess there was some kind of flood on the house and the ranch, and most of those lions that were in the film died. I read that a while ago, and I found it fascinating. I could be skewing some of the facts there.
Yeah.
But I guess in all this anecdote telling, what your audience should take away is that this is a singular cinematic object, never to be repeated, and quite honestly, there's nothing like sitting in a room full of people also watching it.
Could not sell it better.
Yeah.
That's tell them what it is.
Yeah, so that's probably the best sales pitch for this movie is that it's a singular experience, never to be repeated. Come join us on June 20th for the screening of Roar in the GE Theater at Proctor's. Brett, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, you're welcome.
The road was long, the Spirit helped us through. Here we are in Eden.